process, and especially that we will be joined by a couple of people. Representative Grijalva, who will be here soon. Representative Giffords, who we pray for a speedy recovery, to soon join us, and Representative Pierce, who has joined us on the dais, represent the areas that are most impacted. And I appreciate that their significance and their problem as they try to tell their constituents why they are being inundated with a problem that basically has solutions that we could find here in Washington if we wished. The issue is illegal entrance into this country. And I think the bottom line has to be that it is unacceptable. Even one is unacceptable. But what is happening today is unacceptable. Homeland Security, the Forest Service, and Department of Interior all have a responsibility in here. And the bottom line is what you're doing isn't working. The status quo is unacceptable. If things are getting better, and the GA report said in some areas it is getting better, that is positive. But it is not good enough. And it is not just people coming across the border searching for a better life. What is a concern for us is that the people who are coming across the border are the drug cartels who are destroying the lives of our kids with illegal drugs. They are prostitution rings. They are human traffickers. There are people who are being assaulted and raped and murdered on American land, and that is unacceptable. And what is worse, Americans living in this area are being threatened and being killed, and that is simply unacceptable. If I can have map 2 up there, which shows, I ain't map 2, that's it, which shows all the regions that have been coming here from the last bit of data. Now, some of those regions are doing very well. I think the number of people who have been apprehended in Maine has been, I think, number is 56, which shows that Canadians from Nova Scotia are not coming here to take our hockey jobs. But in each of the last 2 years for which we have numbers, it's about 500,000 people have been apprehended. That's the ones we caught, not the ones who came in. And if you look at the numbers, over 250,000 of all those went through the Tucson sector by itself. 51% of those who are coming into this country are coming through that one sector. And no wonder you can understand why Arizona reacted the way it did and passed legislation in their state legislature, because that's almost 1,000 people a day being apprehended through their sector alone. And Tucson isn't all of Arizona. You got Yuma in there at the same time. So the question has to be, why is that the access of choice for coming in here? Can I have map 1? This is the borderland. By definition and judicial, borderland is 100 miles above the border. Everything red on that map is owned by the federal government. In places where we are having success, there's not a whole lot of red. In the places where the problem exists, it is red. GAO report said 97% of all the apprehensions are now coming on federal lands. When we built the fence, 36 laws were waived in order to build the fence. One makes the assumption that those 36 may indeed have a reason in the problem that Border Patrol has in securing the borders right now. Department of Interior, I'm sorry, but your response so far has been number 8, which is to set up a sign telling Americans not to go on American property. Now, the outrage at these signs was major, and you pulled them down, which is right, but the ad changed. A sovereign country has to control its sovereign lands, and we're not doing that, and that is simply unacceptable. It is still unsafe for Americans to go into America, and that is simply unacceptable. The representative from Homeland Security will come in here and basically tell us that things are fine. We're getting along. We're improving. I just want you to know I don't buy it. I don't buy it because the logical assumption of that testimony means Border Patrol is incompetent to do their job, and I don't believe that for 1 second. I believe the Border Patrol is competent to do their job, but there are frustrations with the Department of Interior and the Forest Service, and if I could have number 4, I believe, that prohibits them. These are the old barriers we used to have along the border. They've been removed as we've gotten better barriers. And now one land manager, under the direction of the Department of Interior, used these borders not to secure the border, but to stop the Border Patrol from entering into areas he did not wish them to enter. That is unacceptable. The Border Patrol can do their job if they are allowed to do their job. Even Senator Bingaman, who is not a hawk on the border, introduced a wilderness bill for New Mexico and recognized in his bill that there should be a 5-mile strip along the border in which the Border Patrol had total access. He got the right idea, he just had the numbers wrong. 5 miles doesn't cut it. The GAO report that came to us, a lot of people have taken one sentence out of context, which said that 22 of the 26 stations said things are fine, unaffected by land management practices. However, if you read the entire report and went down to page 32, you would see that what they said is, in other words, no portions of these stations' jurisdiction have had their border security status, such as controlled, managed, or monitored, downgraded as a result of land management laws. To me, that's not the same thing, especially if you look at the rest of the report and see how 17 out of 26 of the stations said they did have monitoring delays and portions of their programs were delayed. 14 out of 17, they could not get waivers from land managers in a timely manner. The majority did say cooperation has not always occurred. The data is not accurate. As it says, some land managers monitor areas in a routine basis, some document on an ad hoc basis, still others collect no data at all. The EIS statement can take over 75 days to accomplish. 3 out of 7 said the wilderness restrictions cause a problem for them. 5 out of 7 said the Endangered Species Act causes a problem for them. There was, in one area in Arizona, it took 4 months to get permission to move a mobile surveillance system. And the reason for it, according to the manager down there, he has limited staff with numerous other priorities. This was not important to him. In a place in Arizona, it took 6 months to get permission to improve roads that the Border Patrol needed on Bureau of Land Management land to conduct patrols and surveillance equipment. 8 months in another area to allow improvements for truck transportation to move an underground sensor. That didn't take place. I find it interesting that in some places it simply never happened. Border agent in charge told us that maintenance was needed for 5 roads and 2 surveillance system sites within the station of operation, but they did not receive permission at all. So without these maintained roads, the agents could not conduct routine patrols or reach the sites for mobile service systems, even in an area of high illegal traffic. In another area where there are few roads, the agent said 1 additional road on an east-west corridor could close to the border would be effective to combat the 8,000 miles of trails that undocumented workers have produced in this particular system. In another area of the National Forest, they actually approved for helicopter landings because of its remoteness, and that's great, but unfortunately everything was delayed until 2011. Contrasting 2 previous examples when Border Patrol requested additional access in another national park, wilderness area, the management land manager determined that additional Border Patrol access would not improve the protection of the resources. So what happened is they put those surveillance on land that is in the state of Arizona, not by the federal government, and it still created a 3-mile hole in the surveillance for undocumented workers. The land manager requested the Border Patrol to find a different location for the tower because of Wilderness Act restrictions, and he explained that the Border Patrol did not demonstrate to him that the proposed tower was critical. He made the final decision, not the experts on the Border Patrol area. And I'm sorry, the witnesses will tell you the memo of understanding is working. No, it's not. I'm glad that you're becoming chummier with the memo of understanding. But the memo of understanding is not the same thing as border security. The memo of understanding is not a solution. It is a process, and the process that the numbers show you on the first slide is simply not working. The results of that memo are unacceptable. The memo has failed. It was designed to fail, and it prohibits the Border Patrol from simply, in fact, actually doing their job. What the memo does is confer what people on the ground have contended and what Washington has denied. What we have to do is regain control of our lands from the drug cartels. National security has to be our #1 issue. To take a phrase from Bill Clinton, it's national security stupid. If the fence needed 36 waivers to be done, Border Patrol needs those same kind of situations. Border Patrol should not be stopped or inhibited in anything they try to do. The environment is being trashed by illegal entry. It is not national security that's threatening our environment. It is the lack of national security that is threatening our environment. The Department of Interior must have better priorities so that human life takes a higher priority over what they are looking right now with the blinders that they have. Environmental laws and border security are in conflict. You're going to hear a lot of spin today, especially from the next panel of witnesses. One may hope, if I can phrase once again from Man for All Seasons, that when your head quits spinning, it will be facing towards the front. What is happening right now is not acceptable, and it has to change. All right, I appreciate your patience in that. Once again, when Mr. Grijalva arrives, we'll have his opening statement. I want to thank you. We have previously recognized Mr. Reyes, who will be here. We have approved your presence here. We noted that you would be the first speaker for us. Your timing is impeccable. You came at just the right time to give your statement. And we appreciate the service and the history that you bring to it as one of those Border Patrol workers that did such a great job in an area you were allowed to do a great job.